This is a segment we like to call Market Factors, where we talk about industry news stories and trends we're observing. Mostly it's an excuse to rag on bad decisions and argue with each other whether some new piece of tech is worth it. So, the new Windsurf IDE blows VS Code out of the water is the headline from Medium. The agent actually makes useful changes to my code, and my prompt didn't have to be so low level. They call it Cascade, and it saves so much time. And these agents will only continue to get better. How long until they completely take over the entire coding process? And then the entire software development lifecycle. $10 a month for 500 prompts, $60 a month for unlimited. I want to say, is Windsurf the one that got pulled by Anthropic because they got acquired by ChatGPT, and Anthropic wasn't in the business of making any ChatGPT functionality any better? But there are a number of these tools basically coming out saying, whether it's Replit, whether it's Copilot from GitHub, a bunch of these tools are basically trying to say, let generative AI write your code for you. You've used it, I've used it. I have so many thoughts. I don't know. Have you tried Windsurf? Have you been following any of the weird drama with Anthropic?
I was following the drama, but I've never used it. But my understanding is you can still bring your own API key for Anthropic, but it can be more expensive, I think. But yeah, I was tracking it from a news perspective from the Claude side, but none using it. Is it that good though? What's better about Windsurf than?
That's the thing, is there's so many of these at this point.
Yeah, I don't know. Like the Medium article, is it written by somebody who works there?
It seemed like it was written by somebody who was just trying it. But yeah, you never know these days with Medium articles, whether it's, I feel like half of Reddit posts at this point are somebody being like, I wonder what type of tool would help me solve this problem I'm facing. And it's just a person trying to promote some new tool that helps solve that problem.
Yeah, it's interesting too, right? Because I hate beating on humans again, but it's human nature, right? It's like somebody wants to be the first to discover a tool and be the first to publish because that is the business. Like at some point, these guys want to become the experts and they are the product. So you can't just pick a random tool, right? And be the first to get it's like that guy who wrote that article about Apache NiFi, and it was like you could tell this guy had got an open AI and got his argument. It's like he just wanted to be published. That's the challenge now, is like the wheat from the chaff on just
Yep.
somebody who wants to be the next,
Yeah.
Simon, what's his name? Simon Sinek?
It's the attention economy. You got to figure out
Yeah.
what's the thing that you can do to get yourself the clicks and the rep. Yeah.
Yeah, because we're becoming the product, right? You think about the stage of the career, depending on your career path, but at some point you can become the product, right? And I think that's what these guys are doing.
Yep. Says the
It's like
guys with the podcast trying to get TikTok videos.
No, that's perfectly acceptable. But then it's like we have a podcast, right? They write articles about tech that da-da-da. It's like, okay, how you get there and how you become the product is up to you. But I don't hate it, but it does question the validity.
It makes me ask what your incentives are. What's going on here? Are you a Windsurf IDE bot? Are you a real person working with them? Are you if you're genuinely a guy who's like, I've tried these 4 things, but how many Google results these days are like, what's a competitor to X? And it's at xcompetitor.com/what you need in this industry, and it's the top 10 alternatives to X. And I shouldn't say X because you'll think it's Twitter, but like it's whatever it is. Like, what are the alternatives to Photoshop? And it's like gimp.com/Photoshop alternatives, and number 3 on the list is GIMP. And it's like, come on, guys, like that happens all of the time.
And one of my pet peeves in my career has been the time, and it's even worse when you're on my team and you do it as an architect, is you send me an article that was written by somebody in one of those vendors.
Yeah.
And they actually highlight in it too, like, hey, by the way, like, I work for blah, blah, blah. It's like, please don't send me those articles as an argument as to why this technology. So, like, send me some, like, fine if it's a good article and it's technically accurate and it gets into the,
if the goal of the article is, hey, I'm the expert, here's how to do it. Sure, right.
But if it's just to pit you, oh, God, just, yeah. these are all the things that we have to fix. These are the things that are on nobody's list to fix that we have to start. It's like I get frustrated when people bashing on AI. Is like we've spent like so much. We spent like 50 years now, like as humans, and we don't actually fix our own hallucinations.
But
Like we
how much
live
of
it.
this is a side effect of some of these big tech monopolies? Like, everyone hates looking for a recipe because all of the recipe bloggers figured out that the way to game the Google search algorithm was to put your personal life story at the top of every post before you finally get to the recipe at the bottom. How much of these articles are gaming the systems and trying to figure out in the limited attention economy what is going to be the hook to get someone to read the thing? No one's searching for best database scaling solution. They're in the mix reading 14 other things, and the algorithm is realizing, well, this article talks about the challenges of blah, blah, blah. So I need to write an article about blah, blah, blah from the angle of my database scaling technology. And those two things will intersect. Like, I wonder how much of our current internet ecosystem is driving a death spiral of these crappy, annoying choices.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think that's accurate. And like you said, like if someone's sharing their technical expertise, and there's some great articles, right? Like I'm not bashing on everyone. I'm not even bashing on the majority. Maybe majority.
At this point, maybe majority. How much of the dead
Yeah.
internet theory is it's just bots talking to bots? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
but for example, I was listening to somebody from one of the CRMs a few years ago, and they were talking about I/O and disk configuration, blah blah blah, and the article was great, and it's like, yeah, that's a good tech article. And then the alternative, you look like the Apache 95 version from Medium that I just ripped this guy a new one, where it's like, I'm not even arguing the premise of your argument here. I'm just arguing because it's so poor, and it's so obvious you took it out of AI to make the argument. Like,
Sure.
ugh.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's a weird, yeah, it's a weird thing. Like trying to separate the wheat through the chaff. But I would say it's a great audit, right? Like how much shit is on the internet still taking up memory and burning disk and
Yep. Well, so then the other reason I highlighted this Medium article was the guy who's like thrilled that for $10 a month he gets 500 prompts, but for $60 a month he can go unlimited. Every single one of these things, like there were people complaining the other week about Claude had run into processing capacity issues, and they were paying $200 a month and thought that that meant that they should get infinite scale and infinite capabilities. And the company was correctly like, no, what you can't do is run this thing for 24/7, even for $200 a month. I'm going to cap you out at like 1,500 hours a month or something. And it's this weird thing of I don't love the idea that you're not understanding the fundamental underpinnings, and we don't have engineering 3.0 where the AI can write good code for you fundamentally. So when the AI screws up, which it does in these vibe coding solutions, every other prompt is badly written code. If you don't have the fundamentals, then you don't know how to go and troubleshoot it. But now, not only do you not have the fundamentals, you're renting effectively a part of your brain to these companies because you're on the hook for $10 a month that they're the one writing your code for you, and your brain doesn't have to do that. But these things are all being subsidized. Every single one of these companies is doing what tech always does. Netflix was so cheap at the start, Hulu was free at the start because tech companies are willing to subsidize to gain market share, and then they hike the price on you. That's why Netflix gets more expensive. It's why Disney Plus gets more expensive. That's why Anthropic had to roll out the $200 tier. That's why ChatGPT, OpenAI is talking about a $20,000 a month, PhD research thing that they want to work on. They're subsidizing it right now. So cool, $10 a month or $60 a month. What happens when a quarter of your brain now costs you $200 a month, $500 a month, $1,000 a month? You don't know where this is going to go because you don't know the true cost. And I think setting aside all of my other problems with AI, that feels bad, actually. If you work at a company that's willing to foot that bill, maybe. But you personally losing skill, this is that Black Mirror episode where the woman had to upgrade to Brain Lux Plus in order to keep thinking. Like, it's not good. It's bad,
dude,
actually.
that that episode I can watch over and over again because that's the future.
It's
I've won.
terrifying.
Oh,
That
it's
is
gorgeous.
awful.
It's a good start. Let's
It
call it a good start.
really having to
Oh,
continuously pay a corporation more money to allow yourself to keep earning money. You're basically now in a feudal system. It is company towns where you go and get paid by the company to then go to the company store to pay the company for your groceries at whatever rate the company wants to charge you. Your brain is now being outsourced to OpenAI, to Meta, to Google, to Microsoft, to all of these companies. Bad actually for you. It is, everyone should join a union because this shit's bad.
oh, wow.
Uh-huh.
A union. You know that I actually was born in the hometown of socialism, right?
I don't know that
Like,
I'm going to say it's the hometown of socialism, but if you were part of a union town in the UK,
no, no, no. I was born in the home of socialism. Like, there's a plaque on the wall in my city where, and it says, pretty much, this is where socialism started. Go down this back alley, 2 floors
uh-huh,
up. This is where it started.
people were getting abused by corporations, and so they had to band together and realize that workers have the power, that Mark Zuckerberg doesn't deliver a single piece of value for for the world without the people that work for him. And the whole reason why they're trying to push AI is that they can stop being reliant on human beings and they can produce their own wealth without us and leave us out to dry. The movie Elysium, yeah, that's the future we all want.
Listen,
Cool.
listen, let me ask you a question.
Uh-huh.
Would you like to meet the medieval version of you and I and hear their complaints about the corporations at the time? Like, oh, God, I tried to get into town the other day and they taxed me a couple of extra potatoes, like I want to talk to those people. I like genuinely, there's been people like us throughout time, right, who argue like the king and the monarchy and blah, blah, blah. I want to meet those people, but it's only with AI that I'm actually ever going to get to have that conversation with those people. And that's a beautiful world where I can meet somebody from 500 years ago that is based on that time period, that has my attitude, that I can converse with in 10 years. Ah, what a golden future. The carbs have to go first. They have to. As bad as the future, the immediate future is going to be, that's my prediction, right?
There are versions of that are possible without Mark Zuckerberg becoming a trillionaire.
I know, but
Uh-huh.
that's not how it's not how
Uh-huh.
the system works.
My other
System works.
concern with these tools is companies like us, which have massive security, HIPAA, healthcare, legal, financial reasons why our code exists in enterprise vaults. A lot of these tools are going to need to be able to tell you that your code and your client data isn't getting shared back with the LLM that is now learning from you. And you can phrase a question in a way that tricks the LLM into telling you other people's data on how these training models work. So I also am curious, and we're kind of going through an exercise like this right now, of how on earth are a bunch of companies going to ever embrace this without a completely different operating model than the cloud, or the cloud needs to be able
No.
to guarantee data security in a way that it doesn't today.
Yeah, and then when you and I talk about the gap, like, and obviously we can really expand on the details in the future in future episodes, but the gap is massive, and it's not just about people losing jobs to AI. It's about you suck at the model now, right? Like you don't know how much it costs to run your company now. You don't know where your data is. You don't know you've been selling data that you've not been permitted to sell for years. And now we're about to change all the model. Maybe some good comes from that where people peel the lid and are like, holy shit, look what's under the covers. I don't think that's going to happen. I honestly, very few companies do it the conscientious way, where they peel the lid and like, oh my God, look at all this normalization of deviance that was occurring. Let's fix that in version 2. So the gap is big and it's real. And that's what worries me the most is the operating model. I can't even figure out the revenue model for these new agents that everyone's building.
That's the thing is, so one, I disagree. Of the three massive Fortune 100 companies I've worked for, all three of them had that was locked down. They knew all of those answers. They had all of that in control. And I don't think this is where like a DeepSeek who's coming out and saying, look, you can run the equivalent of OpenAI models on one GPU might have to be the answer and the future for a couple of these things, because KPMG is not going to upload client data into Azure cloud. It's just not going to happen. So what are the alternatives of running these things locally? So I'm just saying that a lot of putting aside all of my problems with this, if you're Windsurf and you want to convince the Fortune 100 to work with you, you got to figure out how your model isn't dependent on the cloud. Is what I'm assuming the next couple of years need to figure out. And you're saying all of those companies are going to change their minds and just be like, nah, screw it. Everybody's wrong. Stick your data wherever you need to embrace the future.
No,
I'm not convinced.
I'm not. I'm not saying that they. I'm not saying that they put my extreme quote on this would be. I'm sorry. Like, we got to figure out the privacy problem in another way, which sounds extreme. Like, don't join internet. Don't go onto this domain suffix if you give a shit about your data. Like, I don't understand how we're going to evolve with the data complexity that's coming for
All
everybody
I'm
to know where that data goes.
No, but you do this sometimes, which is you talk about a future state where changes have been forced. And I'm saying tomorrow, the lawyers at Fortune 100 companies aren't going to agree to use Windsurf IDE, aren't going to agree to use GitHub Copilot because they're in today's mindset. So all I'm saying is, sure, a weird privacy future solving some of these problems. I'm saying in 2026, what is the future of these tools in the Fortune 500? And I think it's limited because no one's thinking like you. And so engage with me in the next 2 years of this. Don't go off into your 10 years
Yeah,
from
yeah.
now brain thought.
But in the next 2 years of this, like, the problem still exists. There's somebody at KPMG that has run code through an open source model at this point that is on the internet. All of
Yeah.
these companies have people who've done this shit, right? And it's I think it's a much bigger problem than people actually like. Think about it from a security guy's perspective, right? Like, it's a pretty big deal. And it's
Hey,
getting really complex to even track the AI tools and what they're doing. Where it's like, is this a closed model? Is this run on prem?
right.
But I
I
think the next
remember
2 years, like,
in a conversation with KPMG lawyers, we were one of the companies that got to evaluate GPT-3 back before OpenAI had even turned it into ChatGPT. It was the whole new how cool this model is going to be. And the lawyers asking questions of the data scientists trying to figure out, could we even evaluate it? And we had to use models to create synthetic versions of our use case documents that we wanted to run through these things, because a data scientist couldn't guarantee that I feed in, you know, T-Mobile's contract, and then the model learns about everything in T-Mobile's contract, and then I go and ask Verizon a question about a Verizon contract, and as Verizon, I try to ask a question in such a way to go find out information about T-Mobile's contract with my competitor, and all of the data scientists were like, it's hard, but yes, you could do that. You could extract out that information, and the lawyers lost their minds,
hmm
understandably, right? And
hmm
so, yeah, those are the things that I don't know. There's so many parts of our current world. Setting aside, you think privacy has to change, you think a bunch of things are going to change in the future. I don't think Sam Altman has a good answer to how do you solve some of these problems. And that's fine, maybe he doesn't want his business to do that, but then that's going to limit your adoption in the Fortune 500, and that is also bad for them. I think it's great. I think we shouldn't do any of this, so I'm on board that all the lawyers are hating this idea. But
And the only thing I'll say is my prediction is in the X number of years, however long it takes for the patience to break, is you're going to see someone challenge the lawyers in the next 10 years on privacy laws. Whether it's you don't want you want your privacy, don't ever come to this internet, right? Like I don't know what it looks like, but again, it's not a square. We're looking at an old problem with the same lenses as we always have, and I don't think it's like that anymore. I think somebody has to. It's like Social Security. Do you think it's broken?
No, I
Like
think
other
it's no,
other
it's
elements to it that are broken.
there are elements to it that haven't been supported and enhanced because the idea of how it was going to work in the 1930s and 40s was based on every family had 6 kids and a bunch of things. But the fundamental idea is correct. Republicans have done everything they can to break it, but the
That's not what I'm talking about, though. That's like you're assigning blame. All I'm saying is like Social Security is broken. The framework is broken. We know it is, right? Like there's massive fraud. And like in the UK,
there's not massive
benefits fraud.
fraud. There's
That's not
not
true in the
massive
UK. That's
fraud.
not true in the UK. In the UK, it's very, very famous, like documentaries on benefits fraud and literally people sitting on TV saying it's cheaper for me to collect benefits than it is to go get a job. And granted, they're correct. Like I'm a single mom. I have to get 2 buses to go making money that doesn't even give me as much as the benefits, right? Right. Like so that's one break. That's massive fraud across the
You
world in
don't
Social
get to use
Security.
the word massive. Go research the
Absolutely. Doesn't
percentage
matter.
number.
Doesn't matter.
Yes, it
Doesn't
does.
matter whether it's a million. Doesn't matter if it's a
Yes, it
million or
does.
a billion.
No,
It
this
doesn't.
is the
It's hundreds
yes,
of
it
billion.
does.
Hundreds of billion.
Absolutely in no
Dude,
world is
you are
that
not
true.
an expert. You are not an expert on British benefit system at all. So there's no way you can tell me you
I
have a
am
history of tracking
telling
the
you,
British benefits system. Are you
you
saying it's
started.
all a government cover up?
You said
Everything's a
you.
government cover up?
When did I ever use the word government cover up?
So there's no fraud in Social Security
I'm not saying there's no fraud.
benefits
You
fraud.
haven't heard a single fucking word I've said for the last 2 minutes because you went on a weird
Dude,
rant
you
about the
said,
British fraud.
dude, as soon as I
So
said British fraud, you said there's no fraud. Literally,
I
quote,
was
you said there's
saying
no fraud.
I did not say no fraud. Holy shit. Calm down. Take a deep fucking breath. The point is, it
It's
doesn't matter.
literally the most prevalent problem with benefits around the world is benefits fraud,
That's a
benefits cheating.
Reagan, Margaret Thatcher invented problem. Even if, no, no, no.
It's
You do,
government conspiracy. I
oh
don't want
my
to talk about
God.
conspiracies, dude. Government conspiracies that are, I mean, the numbers are published. If you're saying there's other numbers that the government is hiding, that's conspiracy.
I haven't said anything because you haven't let me finish a fucking sentence, you psychopath. Shut the fuck up and let me finish a sentence. It doesn't matter how much fraud there is because the fraud is not bigger than the benefit. There will always be fraud. If you want to talk about, yeah,
That doesn't matter. That's a ridiculous argument.
yes, it
That we should not fix the fraud because it's not bigger than this other problem. That makes no sense. That is a broken framework.
correct.
It's a broken
No,
framework.
absolutely
Absolutely.
not. If there, no, no,
2021, England had 5.5 billion, estimated 5.5 billion pounds of benefits fraud. That could have gone to education. It's a mockery, dude. Like
it is not.
6.5 billion,
One,
6.5
where are you getting
billion.
6.5 billion? Latest figures on Wikipedia for 2019 to 2020, the government's benefit fraud figure was 2.3 billion or 1.2% of benefits. 1.2%. You're telling me, fuck the 98.8% of people who need those benefits, who are benefited by it, because 1.2% of the system has fraud? Let's go look at Wall Street. Let's go look at the
But you're
percentage of
arguing,
fraud
you're
on.
arguing against, you're arguing against your own argument, which is I'm a single mom and I get 80 pounds a week. That is not enough. And I could get 160 if the guy next door was not committing fraud. How can you argue against the single mom who needs that money?
There is no your math doesn't make sense. 1.2%. Tell me how 1.2% is going to help
It
her. She's going to
doesn't
get
matter. It
40
doesn't
cents
matter
more.
because you're saying 5.5 billion pounds is not a lot of money. Whether it's a billion pounds, 2 billion pounds, and this is why Trump is in today is because Democrats have a
Because
history of
people are
saying it's penny
stupid and
pinching. But it's like all the
yes,
little bills added up. It adds up
they
to
don't.
25%, 30%. It does,
They
dude. It
don't.
just does.
You're arguing that a thing that is a net good, that is 98.8% successful, 98.8% successful, That is the problem, not the capitalist system that only pays her $80. So what you would rather do, your
No, no,
argument,
no, no. But if we lived in your world without the capitalist system, dude, we'd be living in huts.
you don't know
Huts.
that. There's a version of capitalism. There's a
There's a
version of
version
this.
of capitalism in that imaginary universe where you live,
It's
where
in
we evolve
Sweden. It's
conscientiously.
in Sweden.
Cool. The Swedish are doing it out of 200 and something 40 sovereign nations. The Swedes are doing one thing and everybody should copy.
Then we're going to move on to the next story because there's no point in having this debate because you're not
I
actually
know.
doing anything with this
No, no, no.
conversation.
It's because the
You
benefits is
refuse to
broken.
talk about, cannot claim that a system, so in your world, AI agent who is going to be wrong 8% of the time is fine. You're totally on board with an AI agent being wrong 8% of the time, hallucinating and making things up. But a benefit system that is wrong 1.2% of the time should be fully scrapped. Fuck all of the 98.8% of
I didn't
people.
say get rid of it. I said fix it. Fix
Every
it.
single
What are
Republican
you
doesn't
going to
have.
do? How do you get to universal healthcare? Universal, like, how
You
do you get to
accept a
post
small amount
scarcity
of fraud.
with a broken benefit system? No,
Yes,
no,
you
but
have.
the numbers don't work. They won't support another
They don't work
hundreds
because
of
people
millions
are
of people.
that you're not going to get another 100 million people out of the 1.2% of the problem is human beings are bad at numbers. You see the number 5.2 billion and you think that's a lot, but it's clearly not because it's 1.2%.
It doesn't matter. It's like a typical liberal answer is like, it's only 25 cents. It's only 25 cents. Like that's why Trump's in. And I hate Trump, but that's why he's in is because it's the liberal attitude of it's like, it's just little bills. It's like add them all up. Add them all up and the conservatives hate it.
They don't hate it. They don't hate it. They hate the benefit. This is the thing that an entire generation of people have been tricked by Republicans and the conservative Tories into thinking that because the conservative says the thing, which is fraud is bad, and what they really mean, by the way, is black people getting benefits. So the fraud is bad, and you say, oh my gosh, the fraud is bad, we should solve the fraud. And then what they do is they turn around and take away all of the benefits. So their solution is not to solve the 1.2%. The solution every time, Republicans, Tories, everybody decides to dismantle the entire benefits system. They privatized the NHS, and now healthcare is more expensive in the UK. They have privatized the American healthcare system. They have taken away public funding for schools. Every time that Republicans and conservatives get in power in one of these countries, their answer is never to solve the 1.2%. It is to downgrade the entire thing. So you getting tricked into thinking that the 1.2% matters, and liberals are terrible at articulating this. I'm not in defense of Democrats or liberals in this situation, but the Republicans and conservatives are worse because what they're doing is waving their hand over here like the magician to distract you from the real trick, which is 1.2% of what number makes 5 billion? 5 trillion, whatever that number is, 500 billion. So what they do is they say, well, the real problem is the fraud. So what we're going to do is privatize, and we're going to go from 500 billion to 300 billion. And that doesn't solve the 1.2%. That screws 40% of the benefits receivers. So your solution is, are the benefits good? And are the fraudsters bad? Well, now you haven't solved the actual fraud and you fucked the people who the benefits were good for. So no, we're not going to have this
No,
conversation
no.
in the current framing.
One, you're only arguing about the benefits fraud. Like both political parties in the UK agree welfare is broken fundamentally. In end of June, Starmer came out and said welfare system is fundamentally broken, and it's not just fraud. It's people who want to go to work that can't actually get off benefits because they can't make enough money. Right? People who
It's
want
because
to
capitalism is
work.
broken. That part's because capitalism is
Yes.
broken and no one's trying to solve
Yeah,
that.
yeah, but that's
Mhm.
not. Again, like, do you who wins, the capitalists or the poor people? Capitalists.
I'm saying we should stop the capitalists from winning. You throwing your hands up and being, this is going to be the entire central tenet of the entire book, which is you're throwing your hands up and say the sting in the gap, we're fucked for a while. Hopefully the technology works itself out in the end and it'll be better eventually.
No,
And I'm saying no, fuck the capitalists right now.
No, I'm saying there's
You clearly are.
opportunity in I no, I'm saying there's opportunity, right? There's opportunity in going back and assessing those systems again and saying they were implemented in the 20s and 30s. It's like immigration policy, dude. Which country has a good immigration policy? Okay, I haven't been to a country yet that has a good immigration policy. Like, hey, we brought you over in the 30s, and some of you were brought over practically as slaves. We didn't take into account your cultural differences, your religion, your education, marriage laws, or anything, right? Like, no plan for immigration whatsoever. I'm saying, let's look at these frameworks. They're broken. I'm not saying they're 100% broken. There's people who need benefits. I agree, post scarcity is where we both want to get to. But I think, should capitalism get fixed? Yes. Will it? I don't think so. So there's other frameworks that we can fix in the meantime that will benefit those people in the gap.
It won't. It's proven that it won't. So, if you're going to say, no, 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 you have various dials that you can turn. And what your argument is, I'm not going to let you turn the dial on capitalism because there's no point. You'll never change the capitalists. So, the only other dials I can change are parts of the broken system. And I'm saying that a fundamental root cause of parts of the broken system are capitalism. And so, you putting
Yeah,
a
yeah.
pin in capitalism and saying we'll never change that means nothing's on the table. This conversation is at a dead end.
No, 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 no. It's not.
Yes, because they've
If no,
proven.
no, no, it's not because no, no, no. And this is my compliment to you, one per show. People like you who are conscientious and have a soul and have a good moral fiber and energy to go fight, right?
Uh-huh.
Will, in fixing those frameworks, find ways to screw the capitalists back, make it attractive for capitalists, make it logical for capitalists to do these types of things, right? It's like the difference between conservatives and liberals around the hey, all the corporations send our jobs overseas. Why the fuck are we rewarding them? Why are we not like taxing them higher? Why are we not doing something, right? And I think people like you, in trying to fix systems that are broken for the common man that nobody's fighting for, you're basically the pro bono lawyer, dude. And that is my argument: is you're the pro bono lawyer, but you have to go and tackle it from the side
The,
that you don't want to.
no, because the problem is people fundamentally don't want to hear what the answer is. The answer is that there's a little bit of fraud in everything, and that is acceptable for the larger benefit. They have done the work, they have done the studies, they know it is proven through scientific research of when people have tried to do this. The way that you solve fraud is by spending more money than the fraud cost you. Every system that tries to do things to make sure that people aren't fraudulent, the forms you put in place, the checks that you have, the bureaucracy that you have, the people who have to go and check and go to your home and make sure you do have a back injury, all of the things that you do to prevent the fraud cost more than the fraud cost you. 1.2% is really good, actually, because the amount of money you would spend to not have the fraud and to do compliance, means testing, all of the things that they do cost more. So just accept a little bit of fraud. We accept a lot of fraud in all of our other systems. White collar fraud is the highest form of fraud in the world. But it's okay when Wall Street bankers do it for some reason, and not okay when the single mom who's struggling does it a little bit. The Wall Street banker having their fraud solved is worth 4 million single moms. The
But
ratios don't add up.
you're still just focusing on the fraud. Let's talk about the people who are technically not fraudulent, but the numbers are increasing and they genuinely have a reason to go on benefits because there are no jobs for them, right? Like there's a lot of Eastern Europeans who've migrated to the UK because they know it's they can go there and get benefits, right? Like, and I don't disagree with that. I'm not saying somebody shouldn't look for a better life somewhere else and say, well, it's globalization. I should be able to travel countries. The European Union was, right? So go to the UK, try to get a job, can't get a job right away, go on benefits. That's not fraudulent. Those are people who really need those benefits. But the system, that system's odd, right? Like,
Yeah, the capitalist system that
as a
doesn't have enough jobs
conservative,
for everybody.
yeah, no, no, that's true. but then
But I'm
in
not
that
allowed to
broken
touch that
system,
dial. I'm
no,
not allowed to
no, no,
touch
no,
that
no,
dial. I
you
don't get to
are,
dial
you
on
are, you
capitalism.
are, you
Uh-huh.
are, but you don't like the answer because then it becomes a conservative thing, and the American conservatives have gone to the extreme, right? Trump is just deporting people, right? But in the same argument, a conservative like me would say, why doesn't somebody who's migrating have a plan? Like, why doesn't the government have some kind of system which is like, hey, and I'm not saying we create jobs, but there's no plan at all, dude. It's just people show up, they get benefits, and they get a place to live, and maybe they have a better life than in their home country, but there's no future, and it's a spiraling game of numbers. It's not like there's more jobs every 20, 30 years for all these people migrating to these countries that have benefit systems like the UK. So there's people who are not fraudulent claiming a lot of money in these. Dude, I've seen it. My aunt and uncle, and I can talk about it now because I think one of them's dead, but they divorced and continue to live in the same home because if you have a separate entrance to the house, you can technically claim benefits as single parents. Like, I love my aunt and uncle, and all credit for coming up with a nice way to make some money. But come on, man. Come on. Like, that's not it. See, I'm all about this. Like, the day there's no murders on the earth is the first good release, right? No, like one death, nobody dies. Nobody like my aunt and uncle who can go and I'm saying zero.
I am
Build a
not
system.
I am not
Yeah.
disagreeing that none of the current politicians are interested in any of this. A lot of that is because capitalism owns them, because capitalism doesn't want them to solve any of this. But sure, magic day where we do campaign finance reform around the globe and we now have people actually interested in solving these problems. Sure. In the meantime, when the only choices are the shitty liberal who at least won't kick 80% of people off their benefits, and the shitty conservative who will lie to you and claim that they are solving your problems when their real goal is to kick all of the people off of the benefits, I'll go ahead and take the shitty liberal.
And the compassionate side of me is with the liberal. The logical side of me is still a conservative, which is
But there's no logic in agreeing with a liar. You're agreeing with a liar. The liar has no interest in solving the 1.2 billion or the 1.2%.
I mean,
The liar has zero interest in that. Proven fact. Proven fact. Tories,
no, no, right.
Labour in the UK is a disgrace. It is a center right party at best. It is effectively a right wing party, and everybody in the UK political system, maybe Liberal Dems, maybe Greens, maybe there's some benefit out there of a good set of people who actually advocate for people, but Labour and Tories, both bad, both not going to actually solve the problem. But if you agree that benefits are good for the people who need the benefits, then there is no logic to voting for the conservative because the conservative disagrees with you. The conservative is proven by their voting record to be lying to you. The fact that they say the words that sound good to you that you agree with doesn't change the fact that they don't believe those words. They are liars who, through their voting record, have proven that they don't have any intention of solving the fraud. So, what is the logic in voting for them?
You keep bringing it back to fraud, though. Like, let's talk about
I'm
like the
using
UK
fraud as the
reforms.
shortcut.
I know. But let's talk about the reforms that, like the UK reforms right now, actually lead to the people on benefits getting increased money because nobody's looked at it, nobody's reformed it in so long,
Doesn't matter.
right?
Doesn't matter. You're arguing that that all parties should be smarter and do something better, and I'm saying yes. Agreed. We should go back to fundamentals. The problem is also a bunch of people aren't going to agree with the fundamentals because of capitalism and racism. There's a bunch of white people in America who benefit from the benefits until they see a black person getting the benefits. And then they think it's a handout for the black person and a benefit for me. And so what I should do is vote for the person who promises to take that away from the black person. But what ends up happening is it gets taken away from everybody. And so they lose their benefit because they wanted the black person to lose their handout. Capitalism also is going to get in the way. So what I'm telling you is we're both on the same page. If a bunch of things changed and we had people who actually wanted to go and look at the fundamental differences, we should do that. But none of your political parties are offering to do that. And so what I'm saying is stop thinking in your fantasy wish fulfillment world and deal with the reality in front of you. And the reality in front of you is harm reduction. You can go with the Tories and the Republicans who will punish everyone, or you can go with the Democrats and the Labor Party who suck as well, are not going to solve all of the things you're talking about, but they're also not at least going to punish the people who actually need the benefits. So yes, do I wish everybody was doing better? Of course. But everything to in these days with the death grip that capitalism has on all of our systems, everything else is harm reduction. And no one seems to vote that way.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. But we don't fix this until people like you, I think, accept the fact of where you live on this planet and the governments and the capitalists. I honestly think nothing gets better until people like you realize like you have to
Because there's no negotiating
break
with
the
them.
system from within.
Because
Here's a good.
there's no negotiating with them. Conservatives, Republicans, and Tories are not interested in finding a compromise path that keeps the 98% of people happy and solving the fraud. They fundamentally do not agree with that. So what magic lever are we going to find in the current system
Well,
that enables that conversation?
here's an example. Here's a company that I knew probably about 10 years ago. A really good mentor of mine was at a startup and invited me in for some conversations. And their whole idea was, hey, we want to, with the medical, there's a medical tree, right? Which is Kevin comes in with a bump on his head. We're going to check this. And then the next thing we should check this. And there's like a tree of
Differential diagnosis. Yeah.
yeah, differential diagnosis. And this company were going to hospitals, and I think they were focused on North Carolina, and they were saying, hey, we know that when we're doing this differential diagnosis, it's often expensive because some of your medical experts take you down a very expensive pathway, right? And the whole idea was these guys were going to pool funds from the insurance companies, and then they were going to reward medical institutions that stayed the closest to the differential diagnosis tree as possible at the end of the year, and that the actual medical facilities were happier to continue to essentially commit fraud than work in this sort of private framework where you're rewarded the better you stick to the insurance differential diagnosis. And the argument was so contentious. One of the cardiologists argued, if you did that, we would move state because we make more money than in this new system. We make more money today than in that new system. That's like a
That's
company
capitalism.
trying to.
Welcome to
No.
capitalism.
I know it is. But what I like about it, and the reason for using that example is that these guys are like you. I think in my head, I'm like, they are trying to fix a capitalistic problem in a way that meets the capitalists. Now they got pushed back, like, hey, no, we're not going to make as much money doing that shit as the fraud we commit today, right? But I credit those guys for going out, and that's what I'm talking about. Is I want people who are conscientious to go start tackling the problem, almost like a capitalist, and meet the capitalists halfway, and start finding ways to make them realize, like, actually, Kevin Euland's got a point. Got a
It'll
point. Like,
it'll never happen. I will never make a point that is more than the billions that they could extract from the industries that they're in. The only
but when you
solution, really,
feel
the only solution is going to Warren Buffett and saying, "Give me your 110 billion dollars and make me the last billionaire, because I will buy the Senate, I will buy Clear Channel and a bunch of the problems that we have and tear down capitalism from within it." But I don't see that happening.
mm.
So until I can
and
find some
and my
billionaires who are willing to be the last billionaire.
my scary point right now is the conservatives are winning that game.
Yeah, no one is arguing that liberals and
No. I
Democrats
know
are
you're
doing a
not.
good job.
No. I'm just saying they're
Yeah,
winning
it's
that game.
terrifying. Yeah.
But I think my mentality is how you guys fight back. I honestly, I don't. I would rather die. If I were you, I would rather die knowing I did it my way and tried than You can't beat them the other way. You can't even meet them at the table your way. How would you even get into a conversation?
But this is what I'm saying is your
You
your
need me.
entire
You guys, I need to become a liberal so I can help you guys.
no, because your example is the good people came up with a solution. I'm not sure. I think technology forcing a differential diagnosis path is a good solution
I'm
actually, but
not. It's just
let's
it's
say it
the
was a good
motive.
idea. Yeah, let's say it was a good idea. You're proving my point, which is breaking the system from within is not as effective. It is equally, I'm saying not all hope is lost, but I need to find the billionaire who wants to be the last billionaire and break the system.
I definitely think liberals need more conservatives to jump over and help. I definitely think that because you got to start fighting fire with fire. You
Yes,
really do.
liberals need to do a much better job of articulating things and fighting the stupid, dumbass arguments you just made with actual facts and evidence because people like you are persuadable that there are better things because you're not an evil capitalist whose goal is to have a serfdom class who are so immiserated in their poverty that they have no choice but to work for the company town, which is who the people you vote for are doing. They don't have any interest in solving Social Security. They have zero interest in solving it. Their answer is to get rid of it. They like
The
old,
only
poor people starving in the streets.
the only
That's
bit I'm
good for them.
disagreeing with you with is your assessment of me, which is no. I like I know like everything you're saying is true and I agree with you. But I remember as an architect, like, can you imagine if I came to you and was like, hey, Kevin, like 1 out of every 100 campaigns fails? Like that wouldn't be an acceptable level. That wouldn't pass like products. Like I'm a perfectionist. That's the difference. Is like I think benefit systems that are broken, whether it's 1% for fraud, it doesn't matter. There's a whole gamut of other issues. Like as an architect, would I like release that system with my certification? No, because I'm a perfectionist. One like how is one fraudulent campaign able to happen in this day and age with digital and how?
This
System's
is
broken.
no, no, because you're thinking of it as a system. This is the fundamental part that conservatives do not grok is government is not business. Government is not software. Government is a service created by the people for the people and has different incentives. So, no, no, no. I haven't finished my point. So put the hand back down. Down. Off. Turn off the hand. So, the post office does not need to turn a profit. Libraries do not need to turn a profit. The healthcare system does not need to turn a profit. Benefits having we should absolutely do a thing we've already done. We've already done it. Conservatives don't like the answer because they don't actually want to solve the benefit problem because conservatives actually disagree with you. They don't think people deserve benefits. So, if we're going to start from the level playing field of you and I, and a bunch of people agree that there is an amount of benefits that people need, maybe that's our first thing, is figuring out if you got hurt on the job because your factory was unsafe, do we as a society want to take care of you? The way we define the first human being, by the way, the way we know when human beings arrived on the planet is because we found a fossil of an old person with a broken leg that had healed. And they got old with a broken leg. And we know that that's humanity because what that tells us is we didn't leave that chimp on the side of the road to die. We took care of that person and we helped them heal and survive into old age with a disability. That's science marker for when humans arrived, is us taking care of one another. So if we can agree on what the fundamental things are when we deserve benefits from society to take care of people who get sick, who are born with problems, we agree on that fundamental thing. Then step number 2 is there's already been research. We already know that the answer to solving a tiny amount of fraud, because there's always going to be assholes, So we also assume there's always going to be assholes. They tend to work on Wall Street, but every once in a while they're also a single mom who tries to take advantage of the system. There's always going to be assholes. So what's the solution to the tiny amount of assholes who are going to commit fraud against the benefit system? We've done the studies. We already know the answer. Means testing, all of the things that we do to prevent the fraud is more expensive than the cost of the fraud. And so in a system where it is not about 1 out of 100 campaigns not launching correctly, it is not being held to the same standard as a business. When it is a social good constructed by society, we've done the research. Making it 100 out of 100 campaigns launch is not worth the money. The juice is not worth the squeeze. It costs more. It's the cost of 2 campaigns to save the one. And in our social good situation, our incentives are different, and we can all agree that that's not a good spending of our community money.
Privatize all of them.
Absolutely not. Then you're working for the company town. Then you're working for the company town, and we've done this before. We've also done this before. Look at all the old West towns that are dead that were company towns. They were established by the company that owned the mine. You lived in the town, you worked in the mine, you paid whatever the corporation decided was what you should pay for groceries and seeing the doctor. It's not a system that works. That is fraud on a higher level.
No, I know it is, because it's broken, and I'm saying fix it.
The fix to that is fixing capitalism, which you've told me I'm not allowed to do.
No, I'm saying you can, but I'm saying don't fix it from the side you're trying to fix it. Like, go find
what's the side I'm trying to fix it from?
Because dollars, money walks, right? Like morals do not. Like nobody. Like the cops are not going to give a shit about a human life anymore in 100 years than well, maybe in 100 years they might, if you're successful. But
yeah,
if you can make it financially beneficial for everybody, then you win.
I will not. That is
if it's a moral argument, you guys will never even be.
I know that I'm right about this because you can look at every chart in the last 150 years of the US, and every chart at the end of 1970, the decade of 1970s, when Reagan takes office and they decide to undo all of the things that they had done since the post-World War II period that saw the greatest growth of the middle class. Every chart, Reagan comes in, things go down for normal people and go up for the rich. And that is because the rich spent 40 years hating everything that the New Deal had done to them to make things equal. There was ridiculous amounts of wealth. Robin Leach had The Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, or whatever that TV show was, where he showed all the gold-plated Trump bullshit that all of the rich people loved. They were obscenely wealthy, and they could not stand that they weren't more wealthy. They could not stand that the middle class had earned their fair share and gotten solid, good lives for themselves. There is not a single financial argument you can make to the greed of the billionaires, to the greed of the financial class, that they will not try to take away from people. So I have the last 60 years of American history and world history telling me I already know you're wrong. There is no financial argument I could make that says you guys get to be billionaires.
I'm not wrong, because you just jumped up and you didn't listen, which is, again, you're looking at it like a square, and I'm saying, you're talking about privatization of the last 150 years, and I'm saying, no, go fucking change privatization. Go figure out a way to make it beneficial, because I believe you are smart enough, and there are smart enough people out there who've evolved over the last 20 years as techies and capitalists and freedom fighters, whatever. There are enough of those people to go and make a dent in fixing the frameworks of privatization as well. Like, yes, privatization is absolutely fucking broken. We know low-income people suffer under privatized healthcare. Fact. No conservative should ever argue anything different. But it's also a complex subject, because in England, I die from my cancer under socialized medicine, right? So it impacts someone always. Someone else. It's like, cool, I'm not low income, but I die of my cancer because I'm not a sexy cancer. I didn't get breast cancer or testicular cancer, so there's no research dollars for me because It's broken, dude. And I'm not saying fix it with 150 years of previous privatization. I'm saying let the people who give a fuck, like you, the smart guys, go fix the framework on privatization. Go find, and honestly, I know it's hard to do. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying I can't see another way to get in because the asking Warren Buffett for $100 billion is not happening.
Unlikely. An unlikely plan for me. Yeah.
Unless Warren, you're listening,
Right,
I'd be
Warren,
really
if you are
careful. I'd
listening,
be
make me the
really
last
careful.
billionaire.
But there's two of us. I feel like he should make us both the last billionaires.
You would spend it poorly.
Oh, I do, but I would be non-threatening because you know what I'm doing with my money, right? I ain't fixing shit.
Booze and hookers.
So
Oh my
anyway,
God.
I love your
I'm
bitch,
right,
Kevin.
you're wrong.
I
Pleasant.
think no. I think you're wrong, but I think you're right in
Uh-huh.
my world. I think you
Uh-huh.
fix things in my world. I think once you come up in my world, you fix things. Yeah, I think so. I think we gotta start looking at everything anew. Not everything. There's some things are fine. Some things are 70% fine, 80%, 90%. You can. It's like building the roadmap. Like, yeah, this is 90% fine. We'll live with it for another generation or two. But dude, look how we hand off. We don't even do a generational handoff of the government. Like, what a we are like.
Sure. Yeah.
It's just all broken. The whole framework, the government's broken, privatization is broken. I'm saying guys like you can fix it.
And I'm saying the solutions are either in the current framework, and we've tried, and the current framework does not provide incentives that they will ever accept that are different than today, and those
But look,
incentives are bad for the poor, or the
but what about
framework
this?
itself has to change. The framework itself has
Yeah,
to change.
what about this? They tried the benefits experiment in India and Britain, right? Which was giving the lump sum to several families. They gave them the £26,000 at the beginning of the year instead of the handout, which I don't know. I'm not sure how I would personally feel about it. Like, I would not be great. I feel like somebody who, like, yeah,
Human beings are bad at numbers, and you think
yeah,
it's okay that we do the thing, and then all of a sudden you
yeah,
haven't budgeted for November and December. Yeah.
yeah. But they tried something, dude. Like, this is my
You're
problem with Musk and Trump and Doge, right? Like, as much as I hate those two pricks, like, they tried something. Whether they
They did
focused on the right
not.
stuff, I no.
No. This is
I
the problem I
like it
have
when
is
companies try something.
no. This is the problem I have is you guys get snookered by lies.
Snookered. Oh, I love that. We should
Snookered.
have a little sound effect for when somebody says a snookered. It should be like the ball getting putted.
Right.
Bonk, bonk. Snookered.
Everything
Yeah.
Doge did was a smokescreen to help Elon Musk make more money. He shut down USAID, which was investigating his Starlink for breaking the law, and they hate giving money to poor people in Africa. So Elon Musk now has the blood already of several 100,000 people's deaths on his hands, and will have more in the coming years because it's going to take a while to undo the bullshit that they did. Nothing that, see, this is the problem, is you guys get spun up by people saying the right keywords that you agree with. Yes, you
No.
agree that
I'm
we
not
need to
disagreeing with that.
address.
What I want to address what you said about like the agencies that they shut down. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that you're wrong. But if they do reopen, I would hope that somebody would look at it and potentially, like a guy like you or I, and say, "Hey, we did it the old way, and then we got shut down. Are we just going to
You
spin
all,
up the old shit? Are we just going to do it again?"
this is the fundamental thing that they've lied to you about and that you all buy into, and you are all 98% wrong, which is most of the things actually worked really effectively. Medicare is the most efficient healthcare system in the country, more so than every private insurer, because they are actually incredibly efficient at doing their job. No one believes it because for the last 40 years since Reagan, they've been lying to you about how these systems work. The Doge guys came in, and there is testimony from the Doge kids who got in and were like, I was expecting to find a lot more. And it actually turns out that most of these things are working as effectively as they can, given all of the controls that you need to have in place to actually prevent government fraud and waste. So no, fundamentally, you guys were sold a a bill of goods. There is not a swamp to drain. The swamp to drain is in Congress. The swamp to drain is in the people that keep getting bought by billionaires and sent to not represent us in our representative bodies. But the agencies, most of the time, work pretty well. And the ones who don't, sure, let's have a conversation. But that is not what Doge's goal was. That is not what Trump's goal is. Their goal is to shut down those agencies entirely. They don't believe in the fundamental value that they were providing. So, if you reopened USAID, is there one out of 1,000 things that they were doing that someone should look at? Fine. You can claim the victory and say you were right, but you aren't. You're mostly not right. That's just not the truth. You've been lied to.
No, I disagree.
Yeah, facts
I
won't
disagree.
change your minds because you feel
No,
this way.
they're your
Yeah.
facts. Like that is like
No,
I'm
facts are
reading an
facts.
article about from a doctor who's like, hey, my low income rural patients like cannot function under Medicare. Like you're just looking at it through your glasses. Like
You
there
are
are people,
mixing.
and again, I'm saying perfection. If there's one family out there that is getting fucked in a system, like why are we not shooting for perfection? Why are we not shooting for better systems?
You are mixing two things. Fundamentally, Doge and Trump have no interest in fixing that. And
That's
any
what I said.
claim.
No. But I said I didn't necessarily agree with the agencies that they cut. However, every business should self-reflect and every government should. Then this is why the Scandinavians, you call the Scandinavians as having like this great system. Do you think that they just happen chance fell into that? Or do you think like they evolve and release it like a product? I mean, the Swedish are
But you're
probably much more like engineers in their government than we are, right?
but you're not addressing the fundamental root cause. If you were a product manager trying to solve this, your five whys would lead you to capitalism has bought the Congress, and the Congress is unwilling to even entertain any of the conversations you're having. And any of the current people who would have those conversations fundamentally do not agree whether or not a thing like Medicaid should exist at all. And so there is no having a conversation right now with the current set of elected people because today, the EPA would not be signed into law. Richard Nixon signed the EPA into law because both Republicans and Democrats looked at the problem of pollution and the things that businesses were doing to the planet and agreed the federal government should step in and take action. Now, you might have disagreed on the degree of regulation, the process that goes into that, but the fundamentals do not agree anymore. And so there's so many problems in even trying to have this conversation with the current batch of people. You want to say solve the problem so that one family in Missouri is no longer screwed by Medicaid? I have no one to have that conversation with in the current system.
Yeah.
Right.
So that the tactic
So
for doing it,
stop bitching about Medicaid and fraud and benefit systems and start bitching
then
about capitalism buying the
no,
Congress.
I, because again, we're on the same side. I'm saying you don't like the fact those agencies got cut, then you have to fight them a different way.
I would like to. I would like to have Democrats not take corporate money. I would like to have a party that knows how to message and talk about things.
That is
The
a problem for you
Yeah,
guys.
Democrats fucking suck at all of this.
You do like it really is weird when like the most admirable part of the party is not actually the party itself. Like the people have a conscience, but the
Nope.
party like
No, it's very bad. No one here is arguing that we
yeah.
have a
So
good system.
so when you're dying, right, Kevin, I get to tell you in your last leg, see, I was right. Like humans don't evolve conscientiously. We're selfish and narcissistic, and we live in the most selfish, narcissistic country in the world.
I'm saying we are millimeters away from the guillotine, and I will sit back and watch it happen.
Oh, I think about it. I've been thinking about it for 2 decades. The spiraling, like what happens when they storm the Hollywood Hills and they start purging the rich, right? Like, who knows where the gap could go? It could get really primitive.
I mean,
It could
this is
get
why it's
primitive real
good that all
fast.
of our politicians are mostly ugly because they won't go for the hot people first.
But that's a great example, by the way. Like the attacks on politicians over the last few years play right into the gap. They just do. Like they played into the gap before you and I even coined the term, which like the everyday man now is starting to feel more like crazy, more and more empowered to punish the establishments, right? Like CEOs getting shot, politicians getting killed. Static gap. What happens when
It's
500,000
also
people in Seattle storm the Capitol?
it's
It's
also
weird.
asymmetric. The media environment is also not helping us in any of this because and the infrastructure of the justice system does not help with any of this. So when you're Luigi and you allegedly kill the CEO, it's a CEO, and so for some reason that matters more, and so you get a national federal terrorism charge. But when you're a right wing psychopath who murders the two politicians in, was it Minnesota or Michigan? I think it was,
Mhm.
where's Tim Walz? Minnesota. When you murder two politicians for explicit terroristic political reasons, no terrorism charge. Because it's a right wing person killing a Democrat versus it's someone killing a CEO. The priorities of the justice system are out of whack. The priorities of the way the media cover it. We're still going to cover Luigi's trial when it comes up because the media are whores. They're not going to cover the right wing guy who killed the Minnesota politician.
Did I just capture a liberal doing whataboutism?
No, no, no. I'm
What?
explaining the reality of these
No,
two
no, no. I agree.
asymmetric responses.
But don't diminish the impact of the Luigi. Here's my, not that I didn't defend the media because they definitely play that part. Don't underestimate
How
the
hot he is and why we
moral.
all want to watch.
No. Don't underestimate the effect it had on the people like the centrists who struggled morally with, well, yeah, that was inevitable, right? Like, not that he deserved it, but well, yeah, like you poke the bear, right? Like, eventually you're gonna get mauled. I think it's important for the media to for the centrists to hit the centrists because then we are like you. I do learn a lot from you, and I do like change my points of view listening to a liberal, right? It's important for the centrists to question those things. Like I
But
didn't,
that is not how the Luigi trial is going to be covered or is currently been covered. He is not the hero of anybody. The coverage from the street, from people, is, yeah, what did the guy think was going to happen when he killed millions of people with his business decisions? The coverage from the media is this terrifying terrorist who murdered a CEO in cold blood for no good reason. The way the media is going to shape this is not informative for centrists, and the fact that the media is not likely to do much national coverage of the conservative who killed the Democratic lawmaker is going should also equally inform the centrists.
but don't generalize on the centrists, right? Like I won't follow the Luigi trial. I moved on. As soon as I read the initial story, that was the only bit that was important to me. Whether Luigi's found guilty or not, I'll read it when it happens. The important thing is initially I was able to read that and just question myself and say, okay, that spawns ideas, but it also spawns emotions, which are it was inevitable. Like it's going to start happening more and more frequently. Of course, it's going to. Like
Yeah, but that's
so, it is.
you. Most people are dumb. Go watch how much polls swing of the American people from thinking Trump was doing a good job to now thinking Trump was doing a bad job. You people are dipshits. So centrists en masse watch CNN and get told what to think half the time.
No,
Liberals and
but yeah,
conservatives do too. Everyone gets
yeah.
told what to think by the media.
I will say this: it's harder for a conservative to educate other conservatives than it is for a liberal to educate other liberals. But people like me are in pawn because when I sit and hear the shit out of my own party, like I'm able to push back pretty hard. And I'm not saying I'm going to change the world. I'm hoping there's enough centrists out there that are reaching enough people and pushing back enough.
This is where I'm
I
going to
hope.
inject the Arrested Development footage not found.
Yeah, yeah. I think it'll be interesting. Like, but again, it's the anti-pattern thing, right? Like, it's all connected. The two-party system, the two-party system. It will always come back as a big question mark for me in a two-party system. The control is so manipulated.
The problem also is we don't really have a two-party system at this point either because the
Right.
will of Democratic voters is not
Exactly.
represented by the Democratic electeds. I
Exactly.
also don't think that the world's largest economy and military should be controlled by somebody who got 32% of the vote. So I also I don't love multi-party systems unless they have ranked choice voting. If you can rank choice and you can say, I'd love my Green candidate first, but I'll take the Republican second. I love my Liberal Dem candidate first, but I'll take the Labor candidate second. If you can do those kinds of things and guarantee that someone gets to 50.1% of the vote, then I'm open to more choice and more things happening. But
Yeah. But
yeah.
that's what I'm talking about. That's what I said. Smart guys like you should try to fix the system from within, right? Which is
To be
like,
fair,
hey,
also they did ranked choice voting in New York, and Zohran Mandami won the Democratic primary, and now all of the Democratic elites are losing their minds and don't actually like the will of the voters. So we have our own problems in the Democratic Party too.
yeah,
Everything's
yeah.
bad everywhere. We should
It
hit reboot on the
is.
Earth.
No, that. So we agree then. You just came to my side of the world. We should hit
No,
reboot on the fucking earth, dude. Yes, what you
sure,
just
but that's
said.
called genocide, so it's not really an option.
No, no, because I'm not being literal. But what you said,
Yeah,
rebooting is my argument. We need to reboot a lot of
but
things.
you're telling me I'm not allowed to reboot capitalism.
I'm saying you are. I'm saying there's control alt
No, no,
delete
no.
and then there's safe shutdown.
You're not even interested in safe shutdown. What you're saying is I have to leave the code running and make changes to the code while it's in memory. I have to do the most complex thing that even engineers today basically can't do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That
Yeah,
I like that.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
let's go with that.
Okay,
But that's my compliment to brilliant people is go tackle.
sure.